and head to the Super Bowl, where we have a interesting discussion with Michael McCarthy of Front Office Sports, who joins us now on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. Good morning, Michael. Appreciate you giving us a couple of minutes today.
Good morning. It's great to be back on with you guys.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And between a new broadcast duo doing their first Super Bowl to flex scheduling for Monday Night Football, what's the biggest conversation in Phoenix surrounding the business and sort of the off-field headlines right now of the Super Bowl?
Well, guys, it wouldn't be a Super Bowl without a scandal, so we had one yesterday. We woke up in the morning to find out that Michael Irvin had been pulled from NFL Network programming due to an allegation by a woman that he had done something to her in a hotel in Glendale. So that had the whole town talking what happened, what was going to happen, because he was supposed to be on ESPN this Friday with Stephen A. Smith. So we learned in Front Office Sports that ESPN canceled that appearance too. So right now, Michael Irvin's kind of in limbo.
What does that do for a guy? I know what it does for his career. Investigation has to happen, but who's the substitute, I guess, that got to go in and be in his place? Because I'm sure he was going to play a big role this weekend.
He already was. I mean, I was at the opening night, and he was up there on the stage interviewing Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. He was playing a huge role. And, you know, as you guys have seen, if you watch Get Up and First Take, he's done had a second career on ESPN. I love his appearances with Stephen A. Smith. They're hilarious. But, I mean, they've got a really deep bench at NFL Network. It'll just be a next man up. But, I mean, there's a pattern here with Irvin. You know, he's been accused of sexual harassment twice before. Jeez. So, I mean, you got to wonder what is next for him at NFL Network. I mean, I think he just signed a new contract. But, you know, contracts are made to be broken.
And it's interesting, and Michael McCarthy, our guest this morning of Front Office Sports on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, how many different personalities who have started to join Stephen A. Smith on First Take. You mentioned the NFL Network roster being so deep. Do you feel like there's a plan long-term to match Stephen A. with a permanent co-host? Because looking at Mad Dog Russo, looking at Michael Irvin, it felt like Michael Irvin was among those top candidates to be one of the most consistent long-term replacements, right?
I don't. I think Stephen A. Smith is about Stephen A. Smith, and he's got First Take where he wants it now, which is Stephen A. Smith and Friends, a rotating series of powerful, funny, entertaining co-hosts that he could debate, you know, such as Michael Irvin and such as Mad Dog Russo and J.J. Redick. And I think that's the way he wants it. I mean, he had a steady partner for 5 years, which is Max Kellerman, and he pushed him out. So I think Stephen A's got the show right where he wants it right now.
And you mentioned that, too, as far as, like, having a deep bench when it comes down to the business of now being a TV talent, right, when it comes down to it. How big of an industry has this actually become? I know Brady got his deal, and there are so many other guys, Romo, whatever's to come of that one moving forward, you know. But how big of a recruiting, a business, an agent stance, network stance does it take to actually get to this point now?
It's huge. We did a feature story in the offseason. In the span of about 2 years, networks threw literally $1 billion in contracts at the top NFL announcers. So the top NFL announcers have now completely separated themselves from the other announcers for other leagues. People like Brady are making more off the field than they did when they were playing.
Wowzers.
Brady's going to make $37.5 million, which is double what Romo and Aikman are making, which is $18 million. So you're right. The numbers are sky high. But look, the NFL is it. The NFL is the single piece of entertainment that's holding this Jenga block together that we call television.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're going to pay $1 billion in rights, what's $20 million for an announcer?
It's incredible, isn't it? You saw Greg Olsen this year. I think most of the feedback you're hearing, people liked him. And with Tom Brady coming in 2024, how do you think, you know, Greg Olsen's role will change? Because it looks like people want him to be involved, obviously.
You're so right. I mean, Greg Olsen is kind of the flavor of the moment. You know, my timeline is filled with praise for Greg Olsen, whereas everybody has turned on Tony Romo 3 or 4 years ago. He was everybody's favorite. and now everybody's sick of Tony Romo. I mean, I think you make a very good point. Greg Olsen has a difficult decision to make. When Tom Brady comes in next fall, he's going to drop down the depth chart to number 2, which means Tom Brady's going to get to call the Super Bowl after 2025, not Greg Olsen. Is Greg Olsen going to accept that, or and the subsequent loss in salary, or is he going to go seek a number 1 job somewhere else, like NBC or even CBS? I mean, that's up to him. Personally, I think he'd be better off playing the long game and see if A, Brady doesn't like TV, or B, Brady flops on TV, and then he goes back to number 1.
What did you think about the Amazon product on Thursday Night Football this year, and what are the positives you take, and what can they improve upon? And yes, the games were not the greatest.
Well, I have to say that all the other networks were rooting against Amazon, and to no avail, because they put out a product that was just as good as CBS or NBC or any other network that was doing it for decades. I thought Carissa Thompson was a great host. I thought Al Michaels and Kirk were a good team, not a great team. What I didn't like Al grousing about the dog games. You know, we all know some of these games are dogs. We all know Thursday Night Football gets the weakest schedule. But, don't tell us that on the air. You're ruining the telecast, Al. I don't care if you're a legend. So give me a break with that stuff. Where it can improve is always the schedule. Goodell kind of shocked everybody yesterday by saying he's going to extend flexible scheduling at some point to Amazon. And Kaylee Hartzong of Amazon was up on the stage with him, and she had a smile like you wouldn't believe. So, that might solve some of Amazon's problems.
Michael McCarthy from Front Office Sports, our guest this morning on 104.5 The Zone. It's interesting talking about flexing Monday Night Football and in the future, Roger Goodell, we played the audio earlier, not immediately flexing Thursday Night Football, but having that option. How much control do you see ESPN having in flexing Monday night games? Is this going to be a similar model to the control NBC has now? What options do you feel like they have moving forward?
It's really going to be the exact same situation that NBC has had for a decade. Late in the season, if you've got a real, dog of a game, they'll be able to flex it. But really the decision is going to be more up to the league than to the network.
Sure.
The networks are, portraying this as Christmas. I mean, can you imagine you're sitting in ESPN, you got the worst game schedule short of Thursday Night Football for 10 years, and now you're going to be able to flex out? I mean, they don't care who does it at the NFL, who makes the call at the NFL. They just want it to happen, and they love it.
They absolutely will. Anytime you can trade a Sam Darnold, Russell Wilson for Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, I think networks certainly love that. Talking about this,
I'll tell you what, guys. Goodell is going to have a fight on his hands with Thursday Night Football.
Yeah,
he is.
Right.
I question whether the NFLPA is going to sign off on that. Players hate Thursday Night Football. Coaches hate Thursday Night Football. Now you throw out the possibility of flexing these games. There might be a revolt.
No doubt. Talking about this Fox team and Fox NFL Sunday being up 2% over last year, pregame show that's really been number one, and their regular season game coverage also up 4%, largest year-over-year increase of any network. Talking about Greg Olsen still, what options does Fox have as far as a play-by-play guy to possibly pair him with in the future? Because it feels like him and Burkhardt have such good chemistry now. It's a great problem to have, but what other options do they have in that number 2 crew, you think, moving forward?
Oh, I think they've got some great options. I mean, Fox probably has the deepest bench of announcers of any network, and I include ESPN on that. You've got Tim Brando, who's an old pro. He's known primarily for college football, college basketball, but he could be a great partner with a younger guy like Greg Olsen. You got Kenny Albert, who calls everything from the NFL to the NHL. Mm-hmm. He could be a great partner. So I think there's a ton of options, but you're right. You put your finger on something, which is there's a genuine chemistry between Olsen and Burkhardt because they were friends for decades before they ever got on the air together. Burkhardt was calling Olsen's high school games, and Burkhardt studied film with Olsen's dad. So they go back decades.
It's like Mahomes and Kelsey.
It is. It's really funny hearing you call it a bench, man, because it really is turning into that with players and the way they have talent just waiting, and everybody wants these jobs. And that's why I want to go back to Kayla's question about Brady and the contract and being number one, and, if he don't like it or not. Where can Brady break this contract? Because Brady's come out of retirement before, so can he break a contract with Fox?
I think he could. I mean, what we've seen over the last couple of years is contracts are not ironclad.
Okay.
Joe Buck had a contract at Fox. Fox let him walk to ESPN so he could work with Troy Aikman. And, it goes on and on and on. I think Fox is actually going out of their way to do what Brady wants. When they signed him last year, they were like, hey, Tom, you can play however you want, however long you want before you start with us. And then this year, I've been asking them for months whether or not they're going to use Brady on their Super Bowl coverage if he was knocked out of the playoffs. And they were like, that's completely up to him. So they are playing the long game. They want to be in the Tom Brady business all the way up the line to Fox Corp. Because as Lachlan Murdoch said when he signed him, he's not just going to be an announcer. He's going to be an ambassador.
Wow.
So he's going to be a rainmaker for Fox. He's going to be involved in everything from marketing to sales.
The Washington Commanders, speaking of sale, they're saying Dan Snyder is asking for $7 billion. Do you think that's an outlandish number, or is it one of those? Look, he's putting it out there right now because he's kind of devalued it because he somewhat has to sell the Commanders right now.
I think it's. I don't think it's an outlandish number, but wake me when Dan Snyder sells majority interest. I think Dan Snyder is doing everything he can to hold on to the Commanders, and he's using this carrot of minority stake to try to, hold off the critics. Problem with the minority stake in a team is you have no power whatsoever. For decades, George Steinbrenner had minority stakeholders in the New York Yankees. Did you ever hear from them?
Nope.
Did you even know their name? Did they ever make a decision? No, because 51% of the team belonged to George, and he made the decision. So that's the game I think Snyder is playing. I think he wants to bring in some new owners to try to hold the pack off, but I think he wants to try to retain control. Wow. I could be completely wrong, but that's my gut.
Michael, on the way out, talking about Christmas for networks, certainly is for Fox and the ad revenue they get from this Super Bowl. How do the numbers for these spots coming up Sunday compare to past, and just give us kind of the insight into the business side of that element of this Super Bowl?
Well, Fox is charging and getting a record $7 million per 30-second spot. So if you're Budweiser and you run a 60, with your Dalmatians and your Clydesdales, that's $14 million right there. That's just for the airtime. Don't forget you got to pay millions in production costs, and then you got to pay another couple of million to some Hollywood director who thinks he's Steven Spielberg and wants to make a film for 30 seconds. So it's a tremendous cost, but people are willing to pay it because Super Bowl Sunday is truly the high holy day of advertising. It's the one day of the year when people are guaranteed to watch your air, and you're guaranteed to get the highest audience of the season. In fact, Fox predicts that this will be a record audience for all-time Super Bowls, beating Patriots Seahawks in 2015.
Wow. What's the return on that $7 to $14 million? Real quick.
It's risk-reward. You know what I mean? It's like open night. You're either going to wow the crowd or you're going to get completely booed off the stage.
Great stuff as always with Michael McCarthy from Front Office Sports. Really appreciate the time, Michael. Always enjoy it.
Guys, thank you for inviting FOS.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Absolutely. There's Michael McCarthy with us this morning on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. And